What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Hopefully welcome back. You asked for it and I'm going to give it to you. Everybody wants to know about this Pecron E3600LFP with the aftermarket server rack batteries. Got questions? We're going to answer them. Here's the setup. This is the topic at hand. As you can see, we've got this Pecron E3600LFP. We've got two eco-worthy Gen 3 server rack batteries. These are roughly, I think, 5,100 watt hours. And let's do a little Q&A. You know, a lot of people are asking, you know, I see that you made these custom Cascade cables with MJ3200, MJ32 connectors. How do you make those? We've got a video on that, so check the channel out if you want to see how to make your own Cascade cables. I show you how to do it. I give you the links to all the stuff that you're going to need to do it. So a lot of the questions that we have are, okay, you know, does the Pecron unit charge and discharge these batteries on its own? And the answer is yes. So it does not show, you know, if you go in here and go through the settings, it does not show the status of those batteries. These batteries have these LEDs on here that kind of indicate the state of charge. EcoWorthy has their own app to where I can monitor these batteries through their app. So that's how that works. Some people will say, you know, why did you do two Cascade cables instead of one? That was just my personal preference. If you're doing two instead of one, it's half of the load on the wiring and the connectors. Or if I decided to add two more batteries, maybe I would parallel 2 and 2, if you know what I'm saying. So just a decision that I made personally. It's not something that you need to do particularly. So yeah, so that's how that works. And then a couple other questions we've had about maybe just the Pecron unit. There's a lot of people on the Pecron users page on Facebook. It's a decent resource. So, you know, there's a lot of different settings that you can go through in here and make adjustments or check things for your unit. Input and output settings is a popular one. So let's do this one here. Discharge and recharge settings. So I currently have it set at 0. I want to put it back to 5%, and I'm going to tell you why. So when you have your unit set up like this, this is basically a 3,000 watt hour battery. This is basically a 5,000 watt hour battery. This one will charge up before these because of the difference in capacity. Now, this one will go to 100%, and then it will basically divert all the other solar power, shore power, whatever it is that you're charging these off of, from here to here. So when this one gets to 100%, it does not stop charging the server rack batteries. Now, you will notice that this will get to 100% before this. Just think of it as a larger gas tank. Now, one issue that you're going to run into is on the discharge side. So, I originally had my discharge limit set, like I was saying, to 5%. So that way, this thing could not dip below 5%. So when I have this set to 5%, it will get to 5% and shut the whole system down. I would have 11% left in the server rack batteries and 5% left in this. Now, I had set it to 0 and let it die overnight. So this is at 0%. The unit is completely dead. 10%. So there's only a 1% difference that you're getting out of going to nothing from 5%. I would suggest don't go lower than 5% because we just don't need to do that to the batteries for 1 more percent, if you know what I'm saying. So unfortunately, you will have 10% left in these two server rack batteries and the system's going to shut down. So no, you do not get to utilize all of your battery capacity, because they are charging at different rates and storing at different capacities. If you were using their proprietary batteries, where every battery is a 3,000 watt hour battery, you would not have that symptom. So going back to here, like, let's go outside for a quick second. It is a relatively cloudy day today. All right. Now, we're getting a decent amount of solar input right now. We're getting 792 watts. All right. Now, I have basically 3 inputs. I've got a 150 watt panel here. This is one string of 3 370 watt panels. This is a second string of 3 370 watt panels. In theory, either one of these strings should be able to produce about 1,030 watts. I'm sorry, 1,130 watts. You will very rarely see it get to that point. In all fairness, my panels are, we'll go take a quick look at these. They're just laid down on the ground out here because I'm not finished making my solar rack. And in my opinion, there are some advantages and disadvantages to this. You get to take advantage of some of the sunlight that you get early in the day that you would not be able to get if you had these south facing at the correct pitch. And then maybe you'll get a little sun at the end of the day that you would not otherwise. So nothing special here. I technically could be getting better solar input than what I'm getting now if I had those things on a proper rack at the correct pitch. And that, to me, with this system is particularly important, just for the simple fact that you're essentially limited to 2,500 watts of input. Now, 2,500 watts of input is plenty to charge the unit and maybe one additional battery, meaning the factory batteries, or maybe 2 additional batteries, depending on your loads. Now, if I've got this air conditioner running, the other air conditioner running, fridge, freezer, battery charger or something, I could be having a load of like 1,300 watts if all that stuff's running at the same time. Now, all that stuff is not running at the same time, but it is very difficult for me when it's in the 90s. I've got 2 air conditioners running on the regular basis, and then maybe it's a day like today where it's overcast and you're only getting, about half of your potential solar input. So that's really going to handicap you there. Now, this, in my opinion, is a great setup in general. I've got a 4,500 watt inverter generator over here. And this morning, for instance, I knew it was going to be a cloudy day. I ran that for 2 hours with one of the 2 Shure inputs that you could have. This one will only allow it to go to about 1,800 watts. And then you've got a 30 amp cable. I don't know what the max is on that. It's like 2,500, maybe 3,000 watts. One thing that can be an issue, now this thing will allow you to charge on the AC and still apply loads, but there is what I'm going to call a ceiling to that. So if I'm charging this at 1,800 watts and I turn the microwave on, it will put this system into overload. And I feel like the inverter is a 3,600 watt inverter that does have a little bit of surge protection, if you know what I'm saying, to where they're basically going to say that, you can do 3,600 watts continuous, but you do have this surge capacity. That's somewhat true. I don't find it to be practically true. So if you're going to be doing like I'm doing, you're living off grid, this is your primary electric source, you're charging it on AC and you want to run the microwave, it's more likely that it's going to go into overload. So you have to be mindful if you're AC charging and you're using loads at the same time. Now, if you're what they call DC or PV charging, meaning off of solar, that doesn't affect the generator. I'm sorry, that doesn't affect the inverter at all. But I find this to be a pretty good solution if you choose to use one of these Pecron 3600 LFPs. You know, it's a good, I'm going to refer to it as a gateway to solar, if you know what I'm saying. I was very skeptical to get involved in solar just because what I'm going to refer to as a proper solar power system is extremely expensive. This is close to fitting my needs personally at this time, but I feel like I'm already outgrowing it. This stuff's interesting, like it's very practical, but it is kind of a toy in the same sense. So I'll probably end up going to an off-grid converter, an off-grid inverter, and then adding 4 additional server rack batteries down here. You know, if I get one of the inverters that I'm looking at is a EG4 12,000 watt off-grid inverter, and you can have a crazy amount of solar input on that one. I believe it's over 10,000 watts of solar input. Now, if I had 10,000 watts of solar input and 30,000 watts of storage, I think I could pretty much do whatever I want. I recently just did a video installing this washing machine in here. I could add a dryer if I wanted, because I'd have, 220 on that inverter. I could add a dryer, run that, and that would be perfectly fine. But we're kind of trying to stay on topic with this Pecron E3600. So like I was saying, I've got 1, 2, 3 solar inputs. This is the 150 watt one. And, 150 watts is 150 watts. Now, I don't always see 150 watts out of it, but whatever you get extra is whatever you get extra. But I feel like that covers a lot of the questions that I've gotten about this system. If there are some additional questions that you have that I have not answered here, get into the comment section. If you guys like me to, make an additional video about that, I'd be more than happy to do so. But I feel like that's about all we've got to cover in this particular video about this particular setup. So I appreciate you all watching. If you could subscribe, that'd be great. I'm about 49 subscriptions from having 1,000, which is one of the prerequisites to getting monetized. So if you could just, give me a subscription. I'm not saying you got to watch all the videos, but it would really help me out personally. I would super, super appreciate that. But I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all on the next one.